My boss announced during the quarterly management meeting that he was demoting me from operations director to senior analyst, so his golf partner could assume my position despite having no manufacturing experience. My name is William Patterson, 52 years old, operations director with 19 years at Meridian Manufacturing, where I had built our operational efficiency from 12 million to 47 million in annual revenue through systematic process improvements and comprehensive team development programs. When Frank Morrison declared that fresh blood brings new ideas while introducing Jake Stevens as my replacement, I simply said, "Congratulations, Jake. I look forward to providing comprehensive transition support to ensure continued operational excellence." Taitiyatu, what Morrison didn't realize was that my methodical approach to operations management included detailed documentation of all strategic initiatives and automated archiving systems that would expose his systematic pattern of age discrimination, targeting senior employees approaching major benefit vesting dates. The announcement occurred during our Tuesday morning leadership team meeting in the executive conference room, where Morrison had gathered all department heads to discuss what he characterized as strategic organizational realignment to enhance competitive positioning. "William has provided excellent service over his 19 years with Meridian," Morrison explained, while reviewing prepared organizational charts. "However, current market dynamics require fresh perspectives and innovative approaches that can only come from new leadership with contemporary business methodologies." I maintained professional composure while noting the defensive tone in Morrison's explanation and the absence of any performance-based justification for the sudden organizational restructuring. "Frank, what specific performance metrics or strategic objectives necessitated this leadership transition?" I asked while reviewing the new organizational structure that relegated me to a subordinate analytical role. Morrison gathered his presentation materials with visible discomfort. "William, your operational expertise remains valuable to Meridian, but senior leadership roles require different skill sets that align with current industry trends and cost optimization requirements." The explanation contradicted my recent performance evaluations and the successful completion of our largest operational expansion project, which had exceeded all efficiency targets while reducing production costs by 23%. "I understand. What timeline have you established for the transition process, and which specific responsibilities will transfer to Jake's oversight?" Morrison distributed transition documentation while avoiding direct eye contact. "Jake brings fresh energy and contemporary business education that will complement your institutional knowledge. The transition will be immediate to capture momentum from our recent operational improvements." I thanked Morrison for his confidence in my continued contributions and concluded the meeting. Then I began systematic review of my employment documentation and recent organizational decisions affecting senior staff. The comprehensive performance management system I had implemented throughout my tenure included detailed records of every strategic initiative, cost reduction program, and efficiency improvement that had contributed to Meridian's revenue growth. What I discovered during the first evening of analysis was sufficient evidence to contact my employment attorney, David Richardson, for immediate consultation about age discrimination and wrongful demotion claims. The personnel records I maintained showed that Morrison had systematically targeted senior employees for demotion or termination during the past 3 years, with all affected personnel being over age 50 and approaching significant benefit vesting milestones. "David, I need urgent consultation about systematic age discrimination in my demotion to make room for my boss's golf partner," I explained during our confidential phone call. "The documentation shows a clear pattern of targeting senior employees before major benefit eligibility dates. David had handled employment discrimination cases throughout his career and immediately recognized the seriousness of systematic age-based personnel decisions in corporate environments. "William, if Morrison demoted you to promote someone with inferior qualifications based on age-related factors, you're looking at federal age discrimination violations," he explained. "The evidence I was compiling showed not just individual employment decisions, but systematic age discrimination designed to avoid pension obligations and senior employee benefit costs through targeted organizational restructuring." Morrison had apparently been studying employee benefit schedules and pension vesting dates to identify optimal timing for removing senior personnel before they qualified for maximum retirement benefits. Morrison's demotion timing coincides with my approaching pension vesting date in 18 months, I documented. His systematic targeting of senior employees suggests age discrimination rather than performance-based restructuring. The automated email archiving system I had implemented for operational documentation had been capturing Morrison's strategic communications about reducing expensive senior staff through targeted personnel decisions. Morrison's internal communications reference systematic replacement of senior employees with younger, less expensive personnel, I noted. His documented strategy proves age discrimination rather than merit-based organizational improvement. The pattern was consistent across multiple departments. Senior managers approaching pension eligibility were systematically demoted or terminated while being replaced by younger employees with significantly lower qualification levels. Morrison has targeted 7 senior employees over 3 years, all over age 50, and approaching major benefit vesting dates, I calculated. The systematic pattern eliminates coincidence and proves deliberate age discrimination. David reviewed my preliminary evidence and immediately recommended comprehensive documentation preservation and potential federal age discrimination complaint filing. William, systematic age discrimination violates federal employment protection laws, David advised. Your documentation provides comprehensive evidence for Equal Employment Opportunity Commission investigation. The performance documentation I maintained proved that my operational expertise and strategic contributions far exceeded any justification for demotion based on competence or performance metrics. My recent performance evaluations and project success records contradict Morrison's claims about needing fresh perspectives, I documented. The evidence proves age discrimination rather than performance-based personnel decisions. Morrison's confidence about his organizational restructuring was about to encounter federal employment law enforcement and systematic evidence that would expose every aspect of his age discrimination scheme. Have you ever discovered that systematic performance documentation could expose age discrimination disguised as organizational restructuring? Employment protection requires comprehensive evidence when age-based personnel decisions target senior employees approaching benefit eligibility dates. My 19-year career at Meridian Manufacturing had been built on the foundation of systematic operational improvements and comprehensive team development that transformed a struggling mid-size manufacturer into one of the region's most efficient production facilities. The expertise I had developed in process optimization and strategic planning represented decades of institutional knowledge that had driven consistent revenue growth and operational excellence throughout multiple economic cycles. I had joined Meridian in 2005 as a production supervisor when the company was facing significant operational challenges, including outdated equipment, inefficient workflows, and mounting pressure from larger competitors who could produce similar products at lower costs. William's systematic approach to operational analysis and process improvement provided the foundation for transforming Meridian's competitive position, noted early performance evaluation from former CEO Robert Martinez. The operational methodology I had developed emphasized comprehensive data analysis and systematic workflow optimization that eliminated waste while maintaining quality standards that exceeded industry benchmarks. Patterson's process improvements generated $340,000 in annual cost savings during his first 3 years, while increasing production capacity by 28%, documented Quarterly Business Review from 2008. The promotion to operations manager in 2010 had reflected recognition of my systematic contributions to Meridian's turnaround and my proven ability to implement complex operational changes without disrupting production schedules or customer deliveries. Frank Morrison had joined Meridian as plant manager in 2018, when our operational success had attracted attention from corporate executives seeking to replicate our efficiency improvements at other manufacturing facilities throughout the company network. Frank's corporate background and strategic planning experience will complement your operational expertise, CEO Jennifer Walsh had explained when announcing Morrison's appointment. Morrison brought solid credentials from larger manufacturing operations and claimed experience in strategic planning and cost optimization, though his attitudes towards senior personnel and institutional knowledge had gradually created tension within our collaborative management approach. "William, your operational methods reflect outdated manufacturing paradigms," Morrison had begun complaining during quarterly reviews. "Contemporary manufacturing requires aggressive personnel optimization and streamlined organizational structures." I had consistently explained that systematic operational improvements required experienced personnel who understood both historical context and current capabilities. "Frank, our operational success depends on institutional knowledge and proven process expertise," I would respond during strategy discussions. "Experienced personnel provide stability and continuous improvement capabilities that new employees require years to develop." But Morrison viewed senior personnel as cost obstacles rather than strategic assets, focusing on salary expenses rather than productivity contributions and operational knowledge that couldn't be easily replaced. "Senior employee compensation creates budget constraints that limit our flexibility for strategic investments," Morrison had argued during budget planning sessions. The philosophical differences between Morrison and my approach had been manageable when we maintained collaborative decision-making and mutual respect for different perspectives on operational management and personnel development. The operational success that had resulted from my systematic improvements included comprehensive process documentation and training programs that ensured knowledge transfer and continuous improvement regardless of personnel changes. Our operational procedures are systematically documented to ensure consistency and enable knowledge sharing across all production teams, I had established as fundamental operational protocol. The $47 million revenue level that Meridian had achieved represented a 292% increase from my starting year, reflecting the compound effects of systematic operational improvements and strategic planning initiatives. But Morrison had apparently been studying personnel costs and benefit obligations while planning organizational changes that would reduce senior employee expenses through systematic age-based personnel decisions. The comprehensive documentation I maintained included detailed records of every operational improvement project, cost reduction initiative, and efficiency enhancement that had contributed to Meridian's success. Our operational improvements are systematically tracked and documented to ensure accountability and enable replication of successful methodologies, I had explained during corporate reporting procedures. The automated performance tracking systems I had implemented provided real-time monitoring of production efficiency, quality metrics, and cost management that demonstrated consistent operational excellence throughout my tenure. But Morrison had been using access to my performance data and operational knowledge to understand the scope of institutional knowledge he was attempting to eliminate through his systematic age discrimination scheme. The training programs I had developed for junior personnel reflected my commitment to knowledge transfer and succession planning that would ensure Meridian's continued success regardless of natural personnel transitions. Systematic training and development programs ensure that operational knowledge is preserved and enhanced through each generation of manufacturing personnel, I had documented during strategic planning discussions. Morrison's demotion decision violated not just employment law, but also basic business logic, as replacing experienced operational leadership with inexperienced personnel would inevitably compromise the efficiency gains that had driven Meridian's success. The institutional relationships I had built with suppliers, customers, and production teams represented intangible assets that couldn't be easily transferred to new personnel without significant operational disruption and potential revenue loss. Customer relationships and supplier partnerships depend on trust and institutional knowledge that requires years to develop, I had noted during succession planning discussions. Morrison's golf partner, Jake Stevens, possessed none of the manufacturing experience or operational knowledge necessary for maintaining Meridian's competitive advantages and efficiency standards. Stevens has no manufacturing background and lacks the technical expertise necessary for operational leadership, I documented. His appointment represents systematic preference for personal relationships over professional qualifications. The age discrimination pattern that Morrison was implementing threatened not just individual careers, but also Meridian's operational capabilities and competitive position in the manufacturing marketplace. Systematic replacement of experienced personnel with unqualified younger employees will compromise operational efficiency and institutional knowledge preservation, I noted. The comprehensive performance documentation I had maintained would provide overwhelming evidence that Morrison's personnel decisions were driven by age bias rather than performance metrics or operational requirements. Have you ever realized that systematic performance documentation becomes essential evidence when age discrimination targets experienced employees with institutional knowledge? Employment protection requires comprehensive records that prove discrimination rather than legitimate business restructuring. The comprehensive investigation I conducted during my first month after the demotion revealed that Morrison's organizational restructuring wasn't performance-based personnel optimization, but a carefully planned age discrimination scheme designed to systematically eliminate senior employees before they qualified for maximum pension benefits and healthcare coverage. My forensic analysis of personnel records and organizational decisions showed that Morrison had been systematically studying employee benefit schedules and pension vesting dates while coordinating with corporate executives to reduce long-term benefit obligations through targeted age-based terminations. Morrison's personnel decisions consistently target employees within 18 months of major benefit vesting dates, I documented while reviewing 3 years of organizational changes. His systematic timing eliminates coincidence and proves deliberate age discrimination rather than performance-based restructuring. The sophistication of Morrison's scheme included coordination with human resources personnel to create documentation that would appear to justify age-based personnel decisions, while avoiding explicit references to age or benefit cost considerations. Morrison coordinated with HR to create performance improvement plans and capability assessments for senior employees approaching pension eligibility, I noted while examining personnel files. His systematic documentation was designed to create legal justification for age discrimination. But Morrison had made critical errors that would expose his systematic discrimination and provide overwhelming evidence for federal Equal Employment Opportunity Commission investigation and criminal prosecution. The automated email archiving system I had implemented for operational communications captured Morrison's strategic discussions about reducing expensive senior personnel costs through targeted organizational restructuring. Morrison's internal communications explicitly reference systematic elimination of senior employees to reduce benefit obligations, I compiled. The technical evidence proves age discrimination intent rather than legitimate business restructuring. The employment attorney, David Richardson, reviewed my expanded evidence compilation and immediately recognized the systematic nature of Morrison's age discrimination and the potential for both civil damages and federal enforcement action. William, Morrison's activities show classic patterns of systematic age discrimination involving coordination with corporate executives and deliberate violation of federal employment protection laws, David observed. The documented evidence proves intentional age bias rather than legitimate organizational optimization. The technical methods Morrison had used to facilitate his age discrimination included creating false performance evaluations and capability assessments that would justify replacing experienced employees with younger, less qualified personnel. Morrison fabricated performance deficiencies and capability limitations to support systematic replacement of senior employees, I documented. His falsification of personnel evaluations constitutes employment fraud in addition to age discrimination. The corporate communication analysis revealed that Morrison had been systematically coordinating with executive leadership to implement company-wide age discrimination policies designed to reduce pension and benefit obligations across multiple facilities. Morrison's coordination with corporate executives proves systematic age discrimination extending beyond individual facility personnel decisions, I noted. His activities constitute company-wide violation of federal employment protection laws. Most concerning was Morrison's systematic access to confidential employee benefit information and pension documentation that he had been exploiting to identify optimal timing for age-based personnel decisions. Morrison accessed confidential benefit schedules to identify senior employees approaching major vesting dates, I documented. His exploitation of confidential personnel information enabled systematic age discrimination planning. The timeline analysis revealed that Morrison's age discrimination had accelerated during the past year as multiple senior employees approached pension eligibility simultaneously, creating maximum cost reduction opportunities. Morrison's personnel decisions increased from 2 to 7 annual terminations as senior employee pension vesting dates concentrated, I calculated. His systematic acceleration proves deliberate age discrimination rather than performance-based restructuring. David recommended immediate Equal Employment Opportunity Commission complaint filing and comprehensive evidence preservation to prevent Morrison from destroying records or continuing age discrimination activities. William, federal age discrimination laws provide immediate protection and investigation authority, David advised. Your systematic documentation provides comprehensive evidence for EEOC enforcement action. The criminal implications were significant. Morrison's systematic age discrimination combined with corporate coordination and benefit fraud constituted multiple federal violations that could result in substantial financial penalties and potential imprisonment. Morrison's documented activities violate federal age discrimination statutes and employee benefit protection laws, David explained. The systematic nature of his employment violations supports enhanced federal penalties. The evidence preservation process required securing all digital records, personnel documentation, and communication logs before Morrison realized that his discrimination had been comprehensively documented through automated monitoring systems. We need to preserve all evidence immediately while maintaining normal workplace operations, David advised. Morrison cannot be allowed to destroy records or continue discriminatory personnel activities. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission investigation would provide federal enforcement capabilities while building comprehensive cases that could result in substantial damage awards and systematic corporate policy changes. EEOC investigators have specialized expertise in systematic age discrimination, David noted. Your evidence compilation will enable rapid discrimination detection and comprehensive accountability. The systematic documentation I had maintained throughout my operational management career was providing overwhelming evidence that would expose Morrison's age discrimination while ensuring comprehensive employment protection and financial recovery. Your systematic approach to performance documentation has prevented major career damage while creating comprehensive evidence that makes Morrison's discrimination impossible to deny, David observed. The corporate benefit analysis was revealing that Morrison's age discrimination had saved Meridian approximately $2.8 million in pension and healthcare obligations by systematically eliminating senior employees before benefit eligibility. Morrison's systematic age discrimination generated substantial corporate savings through elimination of senior employee benefit obligations, I documented. His financial motivation proves deliberate discrimination rather than performance-based personnel decisions. The federal investigation would examine not just individual age discrimination, but systematic corporate policies that violated federal employment protection laws while creating financial incentives for age-based personnel decisions. Morrison's coordination with corporate executives suggests company-wide age discrimination policies, David noted. The systematic approach warrants comprehensive federal investigation and corporate accountability. Morrison's confidence about organizational restructuring was about to encounter Equal Employment Opportunity Commission investigation and systematic evidence that would expose every aspect of his age discrimination scheme while ensuring maximum federal accountability. The comprehensive discrimination detection I had achieved through systematic documentation was transforming attempted age bias into complete evidence for both individual recovery and corporate policy reform. Have you ever discovered that comprehensive performance documentation could expose systematic age discrimination designed to avoid employee benefit obligations? Employment protection systems sometimes become essential tools for detecting sophisticated discrimination schemes disguised as organizational optimization. The strategic legal and federal response that David Richardson developed required careful coordination between Equal Employment Opportunity Commission investigation, corporate compliance enforcement, and damage recovery procedures to maximize employment protection while ensuring appropriate accountability for Morrison's systematic age discrimination and federal employment law violations. William. Morrison's systematic age discrimination creates exposure under federal employment protection statutes, benefit security laws, and corporate compliance regulations, David explained during our comprehensive strategy session. The evidence you've compiled supports simultaneous EEOC investigation and corporate enforcement that will ensure complete employment protection and financial recovery. The Federal Age Discrimination Investigation Strategy focused on Morrison's systematic targeting of senior employees and coordination with corporate executives to avoid benefit obligations through age-based personnel decisions that warranted immediate federal intervention. Your comprehensive documentation proves systematic violation of Age Discrimination in Employment Act protections, David noted. Morrison's coordination with corporate leadership constitutes company-wide employment discrimination that justifies federal enforcement action. But the most immediate priority was preventing Morrison from continuing discriminatory personnel activities while investigators built comprehensive cases for both individual recovery and corporate policy reformation. We need immediate EEOC intervention to prevent Morrison from terminating additional senior employees while investigators examine the full scope of systematic age discrimination, David recommended. The federal criminal referral documentation I was preparing included comprehensive evidence of Morrison's systematic age discrimination, benefit fraud, and corporate conspiracy that warranted prosecution under federal employment crime and conspiracy statutes. Morrison's activities constitute multiple federal violations, including age discrimination, benefit fraud, and conspiracy to violate employment protection laws, David explained. Meanwhile, I was documenting additional evidence of the financial harm and career damage that Morrison's age discrimination had created for multiple senior employees who had lost advancement opportunities and retirement security. David, Morrison's discrimination affected 7 senior employees who lost combined pension benefits exceeding $2.8 million, I noted. His systematic scheme created substantial financial harm while violating federal employment protections. The technical analysis I was conducting revealed that Morrison's age discrimination had affected not just individual careers, but had also compromised Meridian's operational capabilities through loss of institutional knowledge and experienced leadership. Morrison's systematic elimination of senior personnel reduced operational efficiency and institutional knowledge that will require years to rebuild, I documented. His discrimination created business damage in addition to employment law violations. The forensic accounting that David arranged showed that Morrison's age discrimination had been coordinated with corporate cost reduction initiatives designed to maximize short-term savings through elimination of senior employee benefit obligations. Morrison's discrimination timing coincided with corporate cost reduction mandates, requiring $3.2 million in annual savings, forensic accountant Lisa Chen calculated. The coordination proved systematic age discrimination rather than performance-based restructuring. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission investigation that began within 2 weeks of our complaint included comprehensive examination of Morrison's personnel decisions and corporate coordination by experienced employment discrimination investigators. Morrison's age discrimination appears to constitute systematic employment violations that warrant immediate federal intervention, lead investigator Patricia Rodriguez reported after reviewing preliminary evidence. The federal investigation was revealing that Morrison's age discrimination violated multiple employment protection laws, including age discrimination statutes, benefit security regulations, and corporate fiduciary duty obligations. Morrison's systematic targeting of senior employees violates EEOC guidelines and federal benefit protection requirements, investigator Rodriguez noted. But Morrison's most serious error was systematically falsifying personnel documentation and performance evaluations to create legal justification for age-based personnel decisions while coordinating with corporate executives. Morrison created false documentation and coordinated with corporate leadership to implement systematic age discrimination, David observed. His corporate conspiracy creates enhanced federal liability. The corporate compliance investigation was revealing that Morrison's age discrimination was part of broader company policies designed to reduce senior employee costs through systematic targeting of personnel approaching benefit eligibility. Morrison's discrimination reflects company-wide policies targeting senior employees to avoid benefit obligations, corporate compliance investigator Michael Torres reported. The Department of Labor investigation was triggered when federal investigators discovered that Morrison's age discrimination had affected employee pension rights and violated federal benefit security regulations. Morrison's systematic elimination of senior employees before pension vesting violates Employee Retirement Income Security Act protections, DOL investigator Jennifer Walsh explained. The comprehensive evidence compilation was supporting federal charges that could result in substantial financial penalties, plus complete restoration of employment rights and benefit eligibility for all affected senior employees. Morrison's documented activities support federal charges that carry substantial corporate fines and individual criminal liability, Federal Prosecutor Sarah Wilson explained. The coordination between employment discrimination enforcement and benefit security protection was ensuring that Morrison's age discrimination would result in both individual recovery and systematic corporate policy reform. EEOC enforcement provides immediate employment protection, while DOL investigation ensures benefit security restoration, David noted. The whistleblower protection procedures that I was implementing included comprehensive documentation of Morrison's retaliation attempts, while ensuring continued federal investigation cooperation and employment security. Federal whistleblower protections prevent Morrison from retaliating against discrimination reporting, while ensuring investigation cooperation, David explained. The systematic corporate policy investigation was examining whether Meridian's age discrimination extended beyond Morrison's facility to company-wide employment practices affecting senior employees at multiple locations. Morrison's discrimination may reflect corporate policies affecting senior employees throughout the company network, investigator Rodriguez noted. Morrison's systematic age discrimination was about to encounter coordinated federal enforcement that would ensure complete employment restoration while providing maximum accountability for employment law violations and corporate conspiracy. The comprehensive federal response I had initiated was transforming attempted age discrimination into complete transparency and enhanced employment protection that would strengthen rather than damage long-term career security. Have you ever required coordination between multiple federal agencies to address systematic age discrimination affecting employee benefit rights? Sometimes comprehensive documentation enables both immediate employment protection and long-term corporate accountability for sophisticated discrimination schemes. The coordinated federal enforcement actions that began executing 8 weeks after my initial EEOC complaint created immediate pressure on both Morrison and corporate leadership, while exposing the systematic nature of their age discrimination to federal investigators, employment law specialists, and corporate compliance officers who had been unaware of their coordinated scheme to eliminate senior employees. The emergency employment protection orders that the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission implemented after reviewing my comprehensive evidence immediately prevented Morrison from continuing discriminatory personnel activities while securing federal oversight of all future senior employee decisions. Mr. Morrison and Meridian Manufacturing are subject to immediate federal oversight of all personnel decisions affecting employees over age 50, EEOC Regional Director Dr. Sarah Wilson announced. Their systematic age discrimination creates immediate civil rights violations that require comprehensive federal intervention. Morrison's response to the federal oversight orders revealed his growing panic as he realized that his age discrimination had triggered multiple government investigations and potential criminal prosecution rather than the simple cost reduction he had anticipated. Morrison's emergency legal motions show desperation about federal oversight and recognition that his discrimination constitutes federal crimes, David Richardson observed. His legal strategy indicates understanding that criminal prosecution is inevitable. The federal criminal charges that prosecutors filed included systematic age discrimination, benefit fraud, and conspiracy to violate employment protection laws that carried potential sentences exceeding 15 years in federal prison. Mr. Morrison faces multiple felony charges including age discrimination, benefit fraud, and conspiracy to violate federal employment protections, Federal Prosecutor Wilson announced. His systematic employment violations constitute serious federal crimes that threaten workplace civil rights. The corporate investigation was revealing that Morrison's age discrimination had been coordinated with executive leadership to implement company-wide policies designed to reduce senior employee costs through systematic targeting of personnel approaching benefit eligibility. Morrison's discrimination was coordinated with corporate executives implementing systematic age bias across multiple facilities, EEOC investigator Rodriguez noted. His activities constitute company-wide civil rights violations, but the most damaging development for Morrison was the employee victim impact investigation that revealed his discrimination had created severe financial hardship for multiple families who had lost retirement security and career advancement opportunities. Morrison's systematic age discrimination affected 7 senior employees who lost combined pension benefits exceeding $2.8 million, victim advocate Jennifer Adams reported. His employment violations targeted families depending on retirement security and health care coverage. The Department of Labor investigation was expanding to examine whether Morrison's age discrimination had compromised federal pension security regulations and employee benefit protections that were designed to prevent exactly this type of systematic targeting. Morrison's elimination of senior employees before pension vesting violates Employee Retirement Income Security Act protections, DOL investigator Walsh noted. His systematic benefit manipulation threatens federal retirement security systems. The corporate compliance audit was identifying additional employment violations involving systematic targeting of senior employees across multiple company facilities, suggesting that Morrison's discrimination was part of broader corporate policies. Morrison's age discrimination reflects company-wide employment practices that systematically target senior employees to avoid benefit obligations, corporate compliance investigator Torres reported. The asset recovery process was identifying corporate cost savings that Morrison and executive leadership had achieved through systematic age discrimination while attempting to hide discriminatory policies from federal oversight. Morrison's age discrimination generated $2.8 million in corporate savings through elimination of senior employee benefit obligations, asset recovery specialist Linda Thompson reported. His systematic discrimination created quantifiable financial harm to affected employees. The plea negotiations that Morrison's employment attorneys initiated revealed their recognition that the comprehensive evidence made federal conviction inevitable while civil damage recovery was proceeding rapidly. Morrison's legal team is requesting plea negotiations due to overwhelming evidence of systematic age discrimination, Prosecutor Wilson reported. His federal exposure eliminates most defense strategies. But Morrison's emotional breakdown during federal interrogation revealed the psychological pressure of facing multiple employment crime charges and recognition that his discrimination scheme would result in substantial financial penalties and potential imprisonment. Morrison broke down completely when federal investigators presented evidence of his systematic age discrimination, EEOC investigator Rodriguez reported. His confession included admission of discriminatory intent and corporate coordination. The confession provided federal investigators with detailed information about Morrison's age discrimination methods and corporate coordination, while identifying additional senior employees who had been targeted for discriminatory treatment. Morrison's cooperation revealed systematic age discrimination affecting senior employees across multiple company facilities, Prosecutor Wilson noted. His confession provides evidence for expanding federal investigation. The employment restoration process was proceeding rapidly as federal investigators implemented comprehensive remedies for all affected senior employees while providing enhanced protection against future discrimination. Complete employment restoration plus enhanced federal oversight ensures protection for all senior employees, I calculated. The comprehensive remedies address both individual harm and systematic corporate discrimination. The professional reputation recovery was exceeding expectations as colleagues and industry contacts appreciated my systematic approach to exposing employment discrimination while protecting other senior employees from similar targeting. Williams' documentation and federal reporting demonstrates exactly the kind of professional integrity needed to protect workplace civil rights, noted testimonial from manufacturing industry colleague Dorothy Martinez. The Meridian Manufacturing investigation was revealing that Morrison's age discrimination had damaged not just individual careers, but also company operational capabilities through loss of institutional knowledge and experienced leadership. Morrison's systematic elimination of senior personnel compromised operational efficiency and institutional knowledge. Operational assessment specialist Patricia Newman observed. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission was using our age discrimination documentation as model evidence for detecting and preventing systematic employment discrimination in manufacturing and other industries. Patterson's systematic documentation and federal reporting provide excellent examples of protecting senior employee rights, EEOC Training Director David Martinez noted. The speaking opportunities at employment law conferences and civil rights seminars were generating additional recognition while establishing my reputation as an expert in age discrimination detection and federal employment protection. Patterson's experience demonstrates how systematic documentation and federal reporting can expose and prevent workplace age discrimination, observed conference organizer Dr. Jennifer Walsh. Morrison's systematic age discrimination was about to result in comprehensive federal accountability, while validating systematic documentation and ethical employment practices as essential protection for senior employee rights and workplace civil rights. The coordinated federal response had transformed attempted employment discrimination into enhanced professional recognition while demonstrating the effectiveness of systematic documentation and federal oversight during corporate discrimination schemes. Have you ever seen systematic age discrimination completely defeated through coordinated federal enforcement that protected multiple senior employees? Sometimes comprehensive documentation and federal reporting create industry-wide protection while ensuring appropriate criminal accountability for employment law violations. The comprehensive resolution of Morrison's age discrimination case occurred within 14 months of my initial EEOC complaint, delivering complete employment restoration, enhanced federal oversight, and criminal accountability that exceeded initial expectations while establishing new industry standards for protecting senior employees from systematic age-based discrimination and benefit manipulation. Morrison's guilty plea on all federal charges included systematic age discrimination, benefit fraud, conspiracy, and employment crime violations that resulted in a 6-year federal prison sentence, plus permanent prohibition from management positions and complete restitution of stolen pension benefits for all affected employees. Mr. Morrison's systematic age discrimination represents a serious violation of workplace civil rights and federal employment law, Federal Judge Patricia Stevens stated during sentencing. His targeting of senior employees to avoid benefit obligations warrants maximum punishment under employment protection guidelines. The criminal conviction required Morrison to forfeit all personal assets, including his residence, vehicles, and investment accounts that had benefited from the corporate cost savings achieved through systematic age discrimination. Morrison's asset forfeiture ensures complete victim recovery, plus enhanced penalties that reflect the civil rights implications of his employment discrimination, asset recovery specialist Thompson reported. The comprehensive recovery exceeds original discrimination damages due to federal employment crime penalties. But beyond financial recovery, Morrison's prosecution created manufacturing industry recognition of systematic performance documentation as essential protection against age discrimination and employment law violations, during corporate cost reduction initiatives. Patterson's comprehensive employment documentation provided the evidentiary foundation for the most successful age discrimination prosecution in federal employment court history. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission Director Dr. David Martinez noted, "His systematic approach should be adopted by all senior employees facing age-based employment vulnerabilities. The professional opportunities that resulted from my ethical handling of Morrison's discrimination exceeded anything my original employment relationship could have provided for career development and industry recognition." Patterson Manufacturing Solutions, the independent operations consulting firm I established, using discrimination settlement proceeds and enhanced professional reputation, was attracting manufacturing clients who valued proven operational expertise and comprehensive employment integrity. Williams' exposure of systematic age discrimination demonstrates exactly the kind of professional integrity we need for senior-level operations consulting. Noted client testimonial from regional manufacturer CEO Robert Chen. The operations consulting practice was generating annual revenue of $520,000 while providing professional satisfaction that focused on advanced manufacturing optimization rather than employment, discrimination, prevention, and federal compliance management. Independent operations consulting with comprehensive performance documentation allows complete focus on manufacturing excellence, I reflected during professional development presentations. The former Meridian colleagues who expanded their consulting relationships with Patterson Manufacturing Solutions represented validation that my operational expertise and ethical standards created more value than Morrison's cost reduction schemes. Williams' systematic approach to operations management and ethical employment practices provide reliability and institutional knowledge that justify premium consulting fees, explained client retention metrics, showing 89% of major consulting relationships continuing with expanded service agreements. The speaking opportunities at manufacturing conferences and employment law seminars were generating additional revenue while establishing my reputation as an expert in age discrimination, prevention, and systematic performance documentation. Patterson's experience demonstrates how comprehensive employment records can expose and prevent systematic workplace age discrimination, observed conference organizer Dr. Jennifer Walsh. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission had implemented enhanced age discrimination prevention recommendations based on Morrison's case, creating new federal standards for protecting senior employees from systematic targeting and benefit manipulation. Patterson's documentation protocols have become model practices for senior employees seeking to prevent age discrimination while maintaining comprehensive performance records, EEOC Compliance Director Lisa Chen noted. Morrison's complete professional destruction served as manufacturing industry warning about the consequences of systematic age discrimination and the importance of ethical employment practices during corporate cost reduction initiatives. The Morrison prosecution sends clear messages throughout the manufacturing sector about federal enforcement capabilities for age discrimination and employment law violations, legal analyst Patricia Newman observed. But the most meaningful outcome was validation of systematic performance documentation and federal employment protections as reliable safeguards against age discrimination during corporate restructuring and cost optimization programs. Morrison's prosecution proves that comprehensive employment documentation and ethical management practices create sustainable competitive advantages, I observed during ethics workshops. The manufacturing industry recognition I received for age discrimination prevention expertise had generated consultation opportunities and strategic partnerships that exceeded the financial benefits of traditional corporate employment relationships. Patterson's ethical handling of employment discrimination demonstrates professional integrity that attracts both consulting clients and industry collaboration opportunities, manufacturing consultant Sarah Davis noted. The enhanced operational consulting capabilities I had developed using case experience were providing additional service offerings and professional recognition that reflected superior manufacturing expertise and verified employment integrity. Patterson Manufacturing Solutions' proven operational excellence and comprehensive employment integrity provide consulting services that exceed traditional manufacturing advisory approaches, client testimonials showed. The comprehensive legal victory had demonstrated that systematic documentation and federal employment protections provided more reliable career security than corporate employment relationships based on convenience rather than verified performance standards and legal safeguards. Professional competence in performance documentation creates career security that transcends individual employment arrangements, I noted during manufacturing management seminars. Morrison's systematic age discrimination during my senior career phase had inadvertently created opportunities for enhanced consulting independence, federal recognition, and meaningful manufacturing relationships that exceeded anything our original employment arrangement could have achieved. Sometimes the most systematic employment betrayal creates catalysts for independent success and enhanced protection standards, I reflected during professional development workshops. The performance documentation methods that had exposed Morrison's discrimination were being adopted by manufacturing companies while generating ongoing consultation revenue and industry leadership recognition. Patterson's employment protection protocols provide comprehensive security against age discrimination while supporting legitimate manufacturing operations, noted licensing agreement with National Manufacturing Association. Morrison's attempt to eliminate senior employees through systematic age discrimination had ultimately created opportunities for enhanced consulting independence, federal leadership recognition, and meaningful manufacturing relationships that exceeded anything traditional corporate employment could have provided. The systematic approach to performance documentation that had defeated coordinated age discrimination was providing sustainable competitive advantages that attracted the most quality-conscious manufacturing clients available to independent operations consultants. Have you ever discovered that systematic performance documentation could transform attempted age discrimination into opportunities for enhanced professional success and federal recognition? Sometimes comprehensive employment records become the foundation for consulting success that exceeds traditional corporate employment benefits while protecting civil rights. Standing in the expanded Patterson Manufacturing Solutions headquarters, 18 months after Morrison's conviction and imprisonment, I reflected on how his systematic age discrimination during my senior career phase had inadvertently transformed my professional trajectory from corporate operations management to industry leadership in manufacturing optimization and employment rights protection. The independent consulting firm had grown to generate $680,000 in annual revenue, while serving manufacturing clients who valued proven operational expertise and comprehensive employment integrity above traditional corporate consulting approaches. The 3,600 square foot consulting facility accommodated advanced manufacturing analysis capabilities and comprehensive client development resources that supported both routine operational consulting and specialized age discrimination prevention services that had become my professional specialty through federal recognition and enhanced industry credentials. Working with an operations consultant who has personally tested comprehensive employment protection provides confidence and integrity that eliminates concerns about age discrimination and workplace civil rights violations, noted senior manufacturing analyst Patricia Lynch, a former Department of Labor specialist who had joined our team. The operations consulting practice I had established was generating substantially higher income than my original corporate employment while providing professional satisfaction that focused on advanced manufacturing optimization rather than employment, discrimination prevention, and federal compliance management. Patterson Manufacturing Solutions' systematic approach to operational excellence and ethical employment practices provides manufacturing consulting that exceeds traditional corporate advisory standards. Client testimonial from automotive manufacturer CEO Michael Torres noted. The business expansion that had resulted from Morrison's prosecution, combined with federal recognition for age discrimination prevention expertise, had created professional opportunities that exceeded anything achievable through traditional corporate employment, with shared discrimination vulnerabilities. Williams' transformation from discrimination victim to industry employment rights leader demonstrates how systematic integrity and comprehensive documentation create lasting competitive advantages in manufacturing consulting, Operations Management Quarterly observed. But the most significant achievement was federal recognition that established me as the definitive expert in age discrimination prevention and systematic performance documentation for senior manufacturing professionals facing employment vulnerabilities and corporate cost reduction targeting. Patterson's experience provides unique insights into preventing and detecting workplace age discrimination that threatens both individual career security and industry employment integrity, Manufacturing Employment Review noted. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission had requested my participation in developing enhanced age discrimination prevention standards and employment protection protocols that would protect senior manufacturing employees from systematic targeting and benefit manipulation. Patterson's employment documentation methods and age discrimination detection expertise provide essential guidance for strengthening workplace civil rights protection throughout the manufacturing industry. EEOC Policy Committee Chair Dr. David Martinez explained, "Annual speaking engagements at manufacturing conferences, employment law seminars, and civil rights workshops were generating supplemental income of $110,000, while reinforcing my expertise in systematic documentation and ethical employment practices." Patterson's systematic approach to employment protection and age discrimination prevention has become the industry standard for senior manufacturing professionals facing corporate restructuring and cost reduction initiatives, National Manufacturing Association President Jennifer Adams observed. Morrison's 6-year federal prison sentence had concluded with complete employment crime forfeiture, permanent management prohibition, and ongoing restitution obligations that would continue throughout his supervised release period. Morrison's systematic age discrimination resulted in the most comprehensive employment rights prosecution in federal court history, Prosecutor Wilson noted. His case demonstrates that workplace civil rights violations carry severe criminal consequences that cannot be avoided through corporate coordination or cost reduction justifications. But Morrison's prosecution had also created enhanced protection for manufacturing industry employment integrity by establishing legal precedents that strengthened age discrimination enforcement and senior employee protection capabilities. The Morrison prosecution clarified federal enforcement capabilities for systematic age discrimination and established deterrent effects throughout the manufacturing sector, legal analyst Robert Kim observed. The employment protection methodologies I had developed and refined through personal experience with systematic age discrimination were generating licensing revenue from manufacturing companies who needed proven protection frameworks while ensuring proper federal implementation and ethical oversight. Patterson's employment protection protocols provide comprehensive security against age discrimination while supporting legitimate manufacturing operations and optimal workforce development, noted licensing agreement with Regional Manufacturing Employment Network. The professional reputation I had built through ethical crisis management was attracting strategic consultation opportunities with major manufacturing organizations who valued demonstrated integrity and systematic employment protection expertise. Patterson Manufacturing Solutions' proven employment integrity and comprehensive age discrimination prevention capabilities make them ideal consultants for the most sensitive workforce initiatives and employment protection programs, explained consulting agreement with Multinational Manufacturing Consortium. Looking back on Morrison's systematic betrayal and attempted elimination of senior employees through coordinated age discrimination, I realized that his sophisticated employment violations had inadvertently created opportunities for professional growth, federal recognition, and manufacturing consulting success that exceeded anything traditional corporate employment could have provided. Sometimes the most comprehensive employment discrimination becomes the catalyst for professional development and federal recognition that transforms entire career trajectories into industry leadership, I observed during manufacturing excellence conferences. The systematic performance documentation that had exposed Morrison's age discrimination was serving as the foundation for expanded consultation services that helped other manufacturing professionals prevent employment discrimination while maintaining ethical workplace standards and comprehensive civil rights protection. Morrison's discrimination attempt validated the commercial value of systematic employment protection while creating legal precedents that enhanced industry-wide age discrimination prevention capabilities. I noted during professional development workshops, the comprehensive legal victory had demonstrated that systematic documentation and federal employment protections provided more reliable career security than corporate employment relationships based on convenience rather than verified performance standards and verified legal safeguards. Professional competence in systematic employment protection and ethical manufacturing management creates sustainable competitive advantages that transcend individual corporate arrangements or cost reduction strategies, I explained during civil rights presentations. Morrison's attempt to eliminate senior employees through systematic age discrimination had ultimately strengthened my professional position while creating consultation opportunities and federal recognition that established Patterson Manufacturing Solutions as the region's leading advocate for ethical manufacturing management and comprehensive employment protection. The people who attempt to exploit senior employees through systematic age discrimination sometimes end up creating opportunities for their victims to achieve greater success through validated expertise and comprehensive federal recognition, I reflected during manufacturing leadership seminars. The experience had proven that professional competence in systematic documentation and ethical employment practices could transform attempted age discrimination into enhanced consulting success and federal authority that exceeded original corporate employment compensation arrangements. Morrison's systematic employment violations had inadvertently provided the foundation for building federal recognition, professional leadership, and manufacturing consulting expansion that represented the most successful and meaningful period in my 19-year manufacturing career. Professional relationships built on systematic integrity and verified protection standards prove more durable and valuable than corporate employment based on convenient arrangements or cost strategies that can be compromised through discriminatory activities and employment law violations. The manufacturing consulting firm that had emerged from systematic age discrimination attempts was generating higher revenue, enhanced federal recognition, and more meaningful professional relationships than anything traditional corporate employment could have achieved. Have you discovered that systematic performance documentation and ethical employment practices can transform attempted age discrimination into opportunities for professional growth and federal recognition? Sometimes, the most sophisticated employment violations become the foundation for building enhanced competitive advantages through validated expertise and comprehensive civil rights authority. If this story of systematic documentation and employment rights protection resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button to Revenge Tales with Luke. Share your experiences with workplace discrimination and employment protection in the comments below. Your story might help someone else who's facing similar challenges with systematic age discrimination and corporate cost reduction targeting. See you in our next story.